What's up, everyone, and welcome back. Today we have a crazy topic that we need to cover, and that is what happened to Luna and its stablecoin UST and all the conspiracy theories around it, because there is a lot. And this is a really important topic that we have to cover because it's pretty much like a mini '08 financial crisis. This is a huge topic, and I feel like the reason the whole world's not talking about it, which I feel like maybe a lot of the world is talking about it, is because it's just crypto. So if you're a crypto non-believer, you just kind of don't talk about this topic, but it's huge, especially in the crypto space. So a little bit of a disclaimer here. I am by no means a crypto expert, definitely not a stablecoin expert. I've been in this space for 5 years now, since around 2017. I originally started using Bitcoin to send out payments. It was a great way to send affiliates, commissions abroad all over the world, better than PayPal and all that stuff. That's what actually got me into cryptocurrency. So it always bothers me when people are like, there's no point in cryptocurrency. Freaks me out. Anyway, I've done everything. I've gotten hacked, I've lost 30,000, I've made bad investments, but at the same time, I was a successful trader with cryptocurrency for about 2 years, but now I switched over to trading stocks again. For me, it's a little bit more relaxing. I like the fact that the market opens and closes. Cryptocurrency is 24/7 and drives me a little bit insane. And I like just the volatility of, small caps and the liquidity of it. It's just great. Plus, it's a lot cheaper to trade than cryptocurrency. But I'm this big advocate for cryptocurrency. I'm a big bull. So what I do now is I'm really just a long-term investor. I do staking, I do some DeFi, and I have some NFTs. So that's really what I enjoy about cryptocurrency. It's a super fun industry. It's like the Wild West, and it's hard not to like and want to be part of and just learn a little bit more of. And what I do as well is follow different people that are experts in the community, some of which I'll talk about today because there's just so much good content out there worth sharing in this video as well relative to the topic. So let's go here first to my trading screen. And the first place I wanted to get into before we get onto all that juicy conspiracy theories is a little bit of an overview, because this is kind of a complex topic and we need to take a big step back and break things down here first. Now, Coinbase Bytes is a newsletter Coinbase comes out with, and they have some really good detailed summaries of events. And they came out with a description of what happened to Luna, and we'll get a little overview, better than I could probably ever give myself. So I'm going to highlight a few things of it that I think are worth sharing. And I've already kind of color-coded a few of the major topics to help ease with the transition into this topic. Okay, so first of all, we have a stable coin called Terra USD. This is UST. This is what crashed. Crazy. And little snippet here, this is UST. It's totally down. Okay, so let's get back to it, which has recently become the third largest stablecoin by market cap with $18 billion in circulation. And that's exactly what makes this topic so interesting, because this stablecoin is really, really large. It's kind of like too big to fail. It's like Lehman Brothers going bust. A lot of people are going to feel a lot of pain when something like this goes bust. It's going to bring the whole entire industry down. And that's why this is so important. Okay. So let's see what happened here. So we have this stablecoin called UST, and it's unlike other traditional stablecoins like USDC, which is from Coinbase, which is also backed by dollar-denominated assets. So just like the dollar used to be backed by gold, USDC is backed by dollars. So something that we are all a little bit more familiar with. And this is what gets kind of crazy here. UST, the stablecoin that we're going to talk about, is backed by another cryptocurrency, right? It's like a derivative of a derivative of a derivative. Called Luna. And Luna is what recently did the elephant pattern that we were talking about earlier in the Discord. So we got to watch out for that elephant pattern. And man, just looking at it is painful, because there's so many good quality projects and teams and individuals that were involved with Luna. So just watching this thing go to zero is it's quite painful. It's not at zero yet, but it sure feels like it died. And I'll talk a little bit more about why I feel that way. Let's see here. UST holders are supposed to be able to swap UST for $1 worth of Luna. That sounds a little bit complicated, but it's basically like, let's say the US dollar was still pegged to gold. I could just, trade in my dollar for that equivalent of gold, is basically what this is saying here. So it's quite simple. It just sounds a little bit complicated, or there's just a lot of jargon going on. Now, this is the next topic here, which is quite important. The supply of UST and Luna is dynamically controlled by an algorithm, and this is quite a controversial topic as well. That's designed to work like a central bank, with the goal of keeping UST price steady to $1. Okay, that's quite straightforward. Now here's how it's supposed to work. Each time a UST is swapped for Luna, the UST is burned to make sure the supply doesn't go too high or removed from circulation, and vice versa. So it is created, can be created as well. That's a little bit of a different topic that I don't want to dive into so heavily. And it's crazy because each one of these topics is like, it deserves, a whole series of other videos. But let's try to stay with the bird's eye view. If UST falls below $1, holders are incentivized to make a profit by swapping UST for $1 worth of Luna. And because UST is burned, supply is reduced until UST's value reaches $1 again. So there's a lot of arbitrage going on, a lot of arbitrage trading that happens manually as well on the Luna network. So this is another thing to consider. Now, before we keep on going, I think this gives you guys a really good overview of already what UST and Luna is and why it's significant to the cryptocurrency ecosystem. Now, today, one of the people I follow here, Ruben Marie, I don't know if I'm saying his name right. Anyway, he's CEO of this company, Engrave, which is basically a cryptocurrency hard wallet. Now, I don't want to talk about his company, but he came out with a post that was really, really good and a little bit conspiracy theory, but it really sums up this whole entire summary quite well, although I don't think all the facts are right. Let me see how much more I can scroll in here. Yeah, okay, that's good. Okay, so let's start off with a quick recap again. Luna, one of the top 10 currencies, lost over 90% of its value yesterday. It reached a low this morning of 0.27 cents, where it stood at $118 just recently. Again, this is like $118 right around here, and now it's at 0.0137. This is quite volatile down here as well. Okay, let's go back. It is one of the most mind-blowing drops in the history of crypto, and what triggered it is the market manipulation of a degree you've never seen. Word on the street, Cardano's founder, Hoskin's son, posted, I think he is the one that posted this, and this is the bit of the conspiracy theory that's going around here. So take everything at this point with a massive grain of salt. BlackRock and Citadel borrowed 100,000 Bitcoin from Gemini. And what that basically means, because I'm a trader, so my trader alarm went off. I was like, okay, somebody just entered a short position. Somebody is betting that cryptocurrency, specifically Bitcoin, is going to go down, or else you're not going to borrow it, because you have to give it back. And hopefully you can borrow it, you sell it to the market, you make a bunch of money, the price of that asset, in this case Bitcoin, goes down, and you can buy it back at a lower price, and then you give it back, in this case to Gemini, and you pocket the difference, right? That's basically what's going on here. It's a short position. Now, I don't think BlackRock and Citadel are responsible for this. I really don't. I think it would just be too ridiculous if they were, but there definitely is, I think, a little bit of a Wall Street versus crypto phenomenon going on. I think obviously somebody was out with a big short position, and let's keep looking here. And they were definitely an active trader because they were manipulating the market. And this is where it gets really good or really bad, depending on how you view it. In anticipation of the attack, they swamped 25,000 of Bitcoin into UST. So now they own basically 25% of their Bitcoin is now UST, the stable coin of the Luna network, which you guys now know, pegged to the dollar, algorithmically created by burning Luna. Okay, so we all know this stuff. Now, this is where I actually had to read this like 6 times because I felt like I was going crazy. But I think this part right here is basically this is how they did it. Because I read this as like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, and so on and so forth. But I think this is like a subsection of this part. Let's read it. They called down Do Kwon, the founder of Terra Foundation, we'll get into him in a little bit, and told him they wanted to sell a lot of BTC for UST, which is, I'm pretty sure it's this amount right here. They swapped 25K of Bitcoin into UST. So I think that's what they're talking about here. At first, I thought this was like a second transaction going on that I wasn't aware of. Anywho, as it was a large trade, they told him they did not want to move the market. Of course, that makes sense. So they asked if he would like to buy a large block of Bitcoin at a discount for UST. That actually probably makes a lot of sense. And they said Kwon took the bait because there's more to this than just trying to get a lot of UST. Kwon gave them a huge amount of UST, strongly lowering UST's liquidity. So think about like a stock, it has shares outstanding, but also has a float. And if a stock has a low float, let's say lower than 10 million shares outstanding, that stock becomes very volatile because it doesn't take a lot of trading to move that stock up and down. And that was the plan of, let's say, the shorter. I don't know if it was BlackRock and Citadel, but let's just say the short trader, that was the plan, to create low liquidity. Then BlackRock and Citadel dumped all of the Bitcoin in USD, causing a cascade of forced selling in both assets. Now remember, they want to get out of UST very quickly. So they want to sell it quick enough to crash UST, but not too quick to where their UST doesn't have enough value anymore because they're actually hurting their own position by crashing UST. So keep that in mind because they want to crash Bitcoin, but they need to buy back the Bitcoin with the UST. So they don't want to kill that valuation, that pair valuation too quickly. So this is a really interesting part. I can only imagine what the office looked like at the time. Whew, gives me goosebumps and makes me super excited. Not that I want to crash a currency, but like I feel like this is going to be a good movie one day. And this is the next part here that is just crazy. That we're actually going to backtrack here a second. BlackRock and Citadel knew that Anchor, referred to as a Ponzi scheme with 20% staking APY, which is just ridiculous, would trigger more withdrawals than it could repay. So forced withdrawals would trigger a massive sell-off on Luna, further breaking the $1 peg of UST stablecoin. Sounds a little complicated, but basically there's a lot of dApps and DeFi built on top of Luna, and they're crashing those as well. And one of them is called Anchor, and they talk about this here on the Coinbase Bytes section as well. I didn't want to bring it up yet because there's a lot of meat here, so I'm trying to digest it slowly. So let's see here. Another tool Terra uses to help boost UST is the decentralized lending protocol Anchor, right? That's what we just read about, which is built on Terra's blockchain and recently offered interest rates of 20% for UST deposits, raising concerns among some critics that such yields were unsustainable. Yeah, if you ever see 20% return for just parking something that's supposed to be USD equivalent, that, run for the woods. That's usually a bad sign. And I'm already kind of nervous with this like DeFi, like 5-7% stuff. So 20% would have, that's red flags. And then, there's yield farming and all this other stuff that just freaks me out a little bit. So that's what they were talking about here, anchoring with the 20% staking APY. So now you're crashing the network. You have all these people probably trying to get back their money, which is just DeFi'd out. Scary place to be. It's like a bank run. Let's keep going here. BlackRock and Citadel bought BTC back on the cheap to repay the loan and pocket the difference. We are talking billions of dollars involved. Yeah, probably. Market manipulation at its best or worst. Kind of interesting stuff here for sure. And he shared some pictures here. So what I would want to say here is I would guess that the short position, if it was BlackRock and Citadel, I have no idea. I would assume no, but whoever it was, they were probably taking a short position somewhere in this area. As in terms of borrowing Bitcoin, this is Bitcoin on weekly right here. So they were probably borrowing Bitcoin somewhere in this area, I would assume. And then they did that deal with Duquan right here. This is his Twitter. They did the deal with him. They got the UST, and then they probably started crashing UST probably somewhere in this area with the intent of moving it back to Bitcoin. And so they already shorted the Bitcoin. They probably moved the remaining UST that they sold back into Bitcoin, probably shorted that as well. And then somewhere in this area, let's say the price, they shorted somewhere in this area, and then maybe they started covering somewhere here. So they probably made like 35% or so based on that trade, which is not bad for just a couple of weeks of work, especially if you're talking about billions of dollars, which is makes things a little bit more interesting, huh? Who knows if they even use leverage or margin on top of all that so they can amplify their position, possibly. But now I'm pretty sure that they have covered their position. I think that's really what happened here. I would assume they covered their position, and now price is going back up, and things are going to probably phase out a little bit more. I actually came out with a video literally 2 days ago that says BTC price 28,000 is significant. Originally, this video was actually called Bitcoin or like crypto will reach 25K. It hit that like the same day. Now I think 28,000 for Bitcoin is just very significant. I think it might be somewhat of a floor or like a support zone. So let's go back to the price. So yeah, this 28th zone, because this is where we had this big rally. Now we came back to this area, came back to it again, and we have the 180 SMA. Now if we crack this area, I mean, probably the the bear market is just continuing, but I don't really see it getting like below 20,000, or if it does go below 20,000, I don't see it happening very long. Anyway, it doesn't matter. This is not a crypto price prediction video. Plus, I don't really care about predicting the price. I think it's a bit of a waste of time. And I'm a full-time trader, so that definitely means a lot coming from me. Let's look at the price of Luna really quickly here and see this big elephant. So yeah, this is just crazy. So it was $100 and almost $20, and it just totally capitulated. So one thing I did want to mention here is notice how you don't see any volume. It's not because I have volume hidden on my chart. It's because there has been a lot of dilution going on, and that's making me really worried. If I ever see dilution on a stock at this multitude, I only see it on tickers that like are about to get delisted, bankrupt, or are on OTC. And look at this. So if you're a small cap trader, you've seen this before. Let's go to the 4 hour. Look at this. You see a nice increase in volume here. And that doesn't mean like, oh, first time there's been this much activity. No, there is dilution to the extreme. It's like if a stock constantly creates more shares and does reverse splits, to keep their price inflated from disappearing, basically, is what's going on. So this is just dilution. A lot of Luna is being printed and created. So this is really, really dangerous. And I think, honestly, it's dead because look at this. If we go to the 15-minute, it looks like it's totally flatlined at this point. We did have a huge, like this doesn't look like a lot. This is a massive, this is like over a 10x bounce right here. I don't think I grabbed the bottom on that one. This is a huge bounce. Could even be more than a 10x bounce. So they did have a huge bounce right here. Looks like it was a dead cat bounce, and now the volume's increasing, dilution's coming up. I don't think Luna will ever be able to recover from this mess. I really don't, unless they, let's say, burn a bunch of Luna. But again, this is a little bit over my pay grade, and it's only speculation from here, so there's really no point in me talking about this stuff on that specific level. Really, all I want to be sharing is hopefully the facts of what is actually happening. Obviously here, I think this is a bit of a conspiracy theory, especially with the names, but this is just really important kind of perspective of how this was possible and why somebody would do this, right? Why would somebody, want to crash UST? Well, it's because they're short basically crypto, and the crash of UST is going to cause crypto to sell off, which means they're going to pocket a nice chunk of change. Coming back to Coinbase Bytes, they have a really good end summary here. The exact reason UST became untethered from the dollar remains unclear. So they're not, picking sides here with BlackRock and Citadel or anything like that. They just say it remains unclear. Clearly, somebody did something, but nobody really knows. But on Saturday, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of both UST and Luna were rapidly sold across exchanges. This is that short seller, most likely the short seller, right? Pushing UST to around 98 cents. And then it rebounded, blah, blah, blah. But eventually more selling pressure, and then, Anchor and all these other protocols and systems on top were just collapsing as well. So it was destabilizing it. But there's definitely probably a short player that was causing this selling, rapidly sold across exchanges. I mean, this is the big red flag right here. And this is where things get even more interesting. So what impact have Terra's struggles had on Bitcoin over the last few months? Do Kwon, the founder of Terra Luna's ecosystem, purchased around 3.5 billion worth of Bitcoin via a nonprofit called the Luna Foundation, LFG, to help back the stablecoin, including 1.5 billion that was added just last week. So, this is this is heavy stuff. And, a really good place to go is Twitter, and just check out what Luna's talking about, check out what Kwon's talking about, because this is really where you get that, straight information from the source. Not to mention you get some really good memes as well. I mean, look at this one. This is really classic, although probably not based on reality. I love it so much. Stablecoins pose significant risk to the financial stability. And there we have Citadel causing its own problems, which again, I don't really think it's Citadel. There's many people that really don't think it's Citadel. I mean, in a way it definitely matters, but in a way it doesn't matter. We're going to see what's happening. It's going to come out at one point, so there's no really point to speculate. But I mean, really the problem is the devastation this created across the whole entire financial ecosystem, specifically in the crypto ecosystem. I mean, think about it when Lehman went bust and Enron, all these companies went bust, right? You have thousands of employees that lose their job. You have people that lose their pensions. It's just devastating. And you could really see this in the Twitter section as well. This guy said, started my first shift today at McDonald's, had to let go of my ego, fuck Terra, Luna, and the whole crypto space. So this guy's, devastated. This guy says, I lost 10,000 in Luna. I can't believe that. It was all the money I had. Please do something. Otherwise, I come on the road. Yeah, I mean, it's bad. Lost 10K here. This guy says, I've lost my whole life savings. This person says, I mean, it's devastating. So it's like, elephant jokes aside, I mean, this is just heavy stuff, right? This guy says, altcoin psycho says, I don't know who needs to hear this, but if you think Citadel and BlackRock were the ones who depegged the UST, then delete Reddit from your phone, go outside and touch grass and seek help. Babes, that sounds horrible. But basically, there's a lot of conspiracy theories around this, especially with Citadel and BlackRock. And it's kind of like a Wall Street bet kind of brew, but who knows? I mean, maybe it is true. I really don't know. So I'm definitely not the one to comment on it. I just want to give you guys a whole general idea of the story so we can all make our own assumptions. A really good place to go as well is go right to Terra UST, their Twitter. They're talking a lot of what's going on. I'm not going to read through all this stuff, but they're basically talking about proposals and solutions and so on and so forth. This stuff, which is, you think it's only 9 hours old, ages very, very quickly. So again, that's not really why I want to go through it, but they're talking about, potential solutions. Let's see what else is going on. Kwon, he hasn't really tweeted since the 11th, since a lot of this stuff. And, it's... Just reading these tweets and like seeing how many people are engaged with this is just kind of mind blowing. He basically ends this thread here by basically saying we're here to stay and we're gonna keep making noise. Trying to rally the lunatic gang and. Yeah, it's tough. It's really, really tough to see something like this happen. If we go to the daily on Bitcoin, it seems like it's trying to recover here. It's having that spike of volume. It looks like a spike of capitulation. I'm a little bit bearish still, so I think even if we get a bounce here, I think it's going to be potentially a dead cat bounce, and then we're going to continue selling off. Who knows? I mean, in the end, a lot of this is just pure speculation, but I'm a long-term believer in Bitcoin, Ethereum, a lot of large caps. I have a bunch of Solana. I like staking. I like NFTs. I think they're all here to stay. Solana, I hope it's there to stay. You have to have a really long-term mindset, and it's really unfortunate if you get involved in a project and it just goes to zero, right? Like we're seeing right now with Luna. I mean, it's just it's so frustrating. It's super scary. So always try to have the most, I would probably say, in blue chips like Bitcoin and Ethereum. But, in theory, Luna was a blue chip. It just went, all the way down to pennies in just a matter of days, which is just terrifying. And it really freaks me out because it's crazy how fast one of these things can shift. Now, Luna was a really specific case because it was this backing of a stable coin, which is just totally unique. So it had a really specific case. You really had to believe in that, which a lot of people did. But yeah, scary stuff there. So there is UST. I don't know what's going to happen here. It did have a big bottom bounce, but not looking very good to it. I personally am not going to be buying myself. I'm just going to be watching with a bag of popcorn and hoping the best for everyone involved.